Hey Yuma, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for watching. If you're on Instagram, thank you. Actually, Instagram's been growing faster. Yuma Clinical Trials. We're here, very special guest, Mayor Nicholls, the mayor of Yuma. You're our fourth guest. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me,
Mayor.
Appreciate it.
So Doug Nicholls, we're gonna kind of get into his career background a little bit, and then why you got into public service,
Sure.
and then innovation in Yuma. Because I think it's very important as Yuma is growing. How do we increase innovation here? Just like clinical research, just like other things that we can do. So thank you so much for coming on.
Well, I appreciate you guys taking the time to include me in your podcast.
So can you give us, one of the things I love about you is your business background, your entrepreneurship skill set, and I think that's really important in anyone who's in public service. Why do you think we don't see more of that in government?
Boy, that's kind of a little bit complicated of a question, except I know a lot of it comes down to compensation. So when you're sitting here in this office, I'm not at my other office earning dollars. You don't do a council position or a mayor position or a school board position or any of those boards that really have an impact on the community. You don't do it for the dollars because it's just not there. You do it because you love your community and it's a passion. And so there is an exchange. There is a lost opportunity. You only have so many hours in the day, right? But my passion and kind of my background has kind of led me to this point today.
And what does Yuma mean to you before we get into your background?
Yuma is just a very unique place. It's a place where you can come and quickly feel welcomed, see a lot of people. You can kind of make your own way. And it's an environment where everyone still works together and it's almost kind of the antithesis of what you see across the rest of the country. All the headaches and all the competition and all the other stuff. Yuma is more of a collaborative type of community, and I really enjoy that part of it. And my wife and I came back here to raise our family is really why we came back. And haven't regretted it a day since.
And so let's talk about your career. So where did you go to school? What was your major? And then what kind of work did you get into when you started out?
Sure. So I'm going to take you all the way back to high school. So I went to Yuma High. I'm a criminal. I really thought I'd be an architect. And so I started doing drawing classes and CAD, not CAD at the time because I'm old enough to be pre-CAD, but to do board drafting. And then I had a youth minister at my church invite me to do some work with him, which led to a job. At age 16, 17 years old, I was doing professional board drafting for a local engineer, Bruce Jacobson. And I went off to school and for architecture and then realized I really liked the other stuff I was doing, which was engineering. And so I changed degrees and changed schools. I went to Arizona State University. I got a bachelor's degree in civil engineering. I started working on a master's degree, but life turned and I didn't quite finish that. But I had interned locally all through college at Nicholls Engineering and learned to do surveying and learned to develop my engineering skills. But upon graduation, I stayed in the Phoenix area, married my wife, my high school sweetheart. We were living in Mesa, and I was designing urban freeways. So, when you go into Phoenix and you have those freeway interchanges that looks like spaghetti, that kind of thing, that was the projects that I was working at the time. We had our second child, and the cost of living there compared to the lifestyle we wanted to live, it just wasn't really matching up. My wife had to work off hours from when I was working. It was just not the environment I wanted to raise my kids in. And so at that time I got an offer from a local firm that I had worked with some of them at one of the internships I was at. And I came back to Yuma, which I thought I'd never do. But kids change your lives. And we ended up having 2 more kids. And after about 4 years at the other company, I just decided it was a time to try to go out on my own and did with the support of my family. And 19 years ago, started Core Engineering Group, which actually this past weekend was our 19th anniversary.
Wow, congrats.
Thank you.
Almost 20. One more year for 20th.
Mm-hmm.
Almost 20.
So what does Core Engineering do?
So we're a civil engineering and land surveying firm. So if you need to know where your property corners are, or if you're developing a parcel of land, we do everything essentially outside the building.
Okay.
The utilities, contouring the land, making the roads and the parking lots, and all those kind of elements, things you don't ever think about, right? You go on the side and you look at the building, and that's amazing. You'll never look at the parking lot and go, "Oh, that's amazing design," right? Now, so we have a saying in our company that when we do our job right, nobody notices what we're doing. But when we do it wrong, everyone
does, yeah. Functionality.
Yes. So that's what we do. And we work all over the county. We work actually all over the state. I'm registered in California also, so we do work in Southern California. And it's been a really good career. I really have enjoyed building things that people rely upon every day, but don't even think twice about. It's just kind of, that's the gratification of it is people using a road and not thinking about how the road got there.
Well, I'm glad we have an entrepreneur, someone with a business background that's running a city. It makes sense to me. Without knowing anything else about you, that's the reason I voted for you. Business person, okay, we got to vote for him. So, what made you want to get into public service? Because when you're running a business, I mean, myself, like that's kind of the last thing I would ever think of was getting into local government.
Right.
What made you think, hey, you know what, like maybe mayor of Yuma?
Well, my wife was way out ahead of me on all that, but really the way it worked is when my wife and I decided to move back to town, we wanted to be the change we wanted to see in Yuma. So we made a deliberate choice that we were going to look for opportunities to give back to the community that gave us our childhood. So that got me involved in things like Rotary and in our church really heavily. And through that process, matter of fact, in Rotary was a mayor previous to me, 2 mayors previous to me, and they had a councilman leaving the council early because they were moving out of state, and they were looking for someone to fill that role. So I decided, well, that'd be an interesting thing to do because one, you don't have to run an election; they just appoint you, and I think it's just a dimension of life I never understood. And I'm very much an engineer. I'm an introvert. I like to work on problems, solve things, but not really much about trying to gain a lot of attention or singing or dancing or anything.
Networking.
Yeah, networking.
Well, you have to do a good amount of networking when you're developing your business.
You do, but it's very focused, right? Not everyone needs a civil engineer. So it's very, very focused. So along those lines, I volunteered to be on council, and this was in 2009. And city council appointed me. I did my 5 months, learned a lot, stretched a lot, my skills and my capabilities, and then left council. Well, 4 years later, I was approached by other business leaders that said, we really enjoyed what you did as mayor, or as council member, we want you to run as mayor.
Ah.
And I'm like, okay, but it was 5 months, and they said, no, you'd be fine. So again, going back to that commitment my wife and I made, we analyzed it. We knew it was going to be a little bit of time away from the business and away from the family, and decided that it was still in line with what we had promised we would do. And so, and my wife claims she knew years ahead of when I thought of maybe running that I was going to do that. So don't challenge your wife on those kind of things.
No.
And we ran the first time and had an overwhelming success. And I thought I'd just do one term, because in business you can get things done a whole lot quicker than you can in government.
Yeah.
And it's been a challenge, but it's, I think, been a worthy challenge. And by the time I get to that end of that first term, those 4 years, it was a little bit more I wanted to do, and so ran for that second term. And then, as we all know, the world exploded, COVID happened, and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
And so coming into a third term, I think we'll probably eventually get to a spot where I'll say it's enough time to hand off the reins. I don't know. I mean, like I said, never thought I'd get past one term.
Yeah.
So, but it's about solving problems. about doing things that are common sense. Business people do common sense things, and that's what I always try to bring forward. And then engineering is solving problems. So you put all that together, and that's what I've enjoyed about this job is solving problems, trying to find better ways to do things that make sense and not just because they're different.
Yeah, and we do want to talk about innovation in Yuma, building a culture of innovation here. But your company, Core Engineering, so I know when I leave these gals alone for like 3 days, I'm a little bit worried. Like, is the business managing itself? Are you doing this? Like, are you involved on a daily basis with Core Engineering, and how does your team work without you? Or I mean, it is a compromise for them, right?
Right.
They have to share you with the city.
Right. Well, I do work every day with my engineering firm. I'm always in touch with how projects are going, what new projects are coming in, how we're wrapping up old projects. So all that is still something I do. I just don't dive into the projects as deep as I used to. And so I've got some great staff that take care of that. I got a senior engineer, 2 technicians that have been with me for a really long time that do great work, great survey crew with a really strong leader there. And it's just that communication and always kind of staying on top of things. But it's definitely something that's on top of mind because that pays the bills for 12 families.
Yeah.
That's no one small thing. We need to really focus on making sure that I can write that paycheck every 2 weeks, and those people put faith in me, and I put faith in them.
Yeah. Yeah, small business is awesome because, and I have no experience with government, but you kind of have to build a system to where it's self-sustaining. I mean, you can't just keep getting subsidies. Well, there is no subsidies to get.
Right.
It's just you have to produce. There's an output that you have to produce. So that's really interesting to me. Back to Yuma, everyone's noticing the city's growing. I mean, we live in the foothills. We're both new, Katie and myself. We live out there in the foothills. We know the town's growing. What are we doing as far as bringing innovation, or at least like what's the vision, I guess, for making Yuma more of an innovation kind of center?
Well, it really comes down to the type of businesses we attract. And so we've done a market study on what areas we could target that would be tangential to what we have, so complementary what businesses we have and the industries we have, but maybe take it to that next level. So we have higher salaries, higher benefits, higher level of education. That's where we're focusing on our economic development efforts. But then it's also looking at how can we be proactive on increasing higher education and providing the innovation culture that is very popular in strong cities that have really strong growing economies. So that innovation culture, a little bit tough to help create, but all we can do is seed the ground, and then it's got to grow on its own. If it's not a grassroots kind of growth, it's not going to be sustainable. Yeah. So trying to connect with those companies and show them why they should be doing business in Yuma, and then on that innovation side, a lot of these companies have an innovation arm. It is working with them to try to make sure that we have that environment for them. But also, we've got a lot of great technical people in town. There's 2,300 of them that work out at YPG. There is our ag community is top of the line science, and they do some amazing work. So I think we've got the right elements here in town to say, here's an opportunity for you to develop whatever ideas you've been working on, or a new product or something new in an innovation type environment. So that we're really focused on working with the partners that are here to try to get something more structured in that world, in that realm.
Yeah, we were talking earlier about tech. Obviously, that's powering all industries, and then healthcare, an industry that we're in, and actually one that Yuma's pretty good at as far as like providing jobs for the city, and then agriculture. So like you were saying, ancillary services. I mean, I actually think those 3 industries are merging in a unique way, and then you add on top of that how we all learn to work remotely and the lower cost of living in a town like Yuma as compared to maybe San Diego or like yourself, even Phoenix.
Right.
I think Yuma's got a lot going for it. So, are you optimistic looking forward? Like, can we pull some of this off? I know it's going to be a lot of hard work, but
I'm very optimistic. I think, the COVID did do some positive things in a way, and the remote working environment, but also people trying to be more outdoors. Well, when you're living in the middle of Phoenix, it's a little bit harder to get outdoors. We're here within 5 minutes. You could be on some trail or on the river or somewhere that is non-urban, right? I think people are valuing those more and more. And so focusing on those elements, I mean, you hear it all the time. Oh, there's nothing to do in Yuma. I don't think you're looking. I really don't think you're looking. I think if you see what the cities offer, all the cities in Yuma County and the county, and then just the natural things that are here, it's up to you out and go do them. It's not about just sitting there playing a video game or watching something on TV or whatever. Go out and do it. But I think that's leading to where people are all across the world want to see things coming together. So for us, it's a little bit about putting it together so it's easier to understand. The freeway, people drive by Yuma all the time, and I hear it. Well, we go to Yuma, we stop and get gas before we go to California.
That used to be me.
Right? It's very, very common, but you haven't experienced Yuma, right? If you're just going in and out and getting gas. We appreciate your tax support, but you haven't seen Yuma. You got to get out. You got to see the full community, and then you can appreciate what we really have to offer, and how we package that and how we put that out there so people come off the interstate and they spend a day to understand our community better, because then that leads to people moving here, these people investing here. Those are the things we want to see.
Yeah, and it works on a national level too. So I've experienced it personally. I do clinical research here in Yuma. I used to do it for a decade and a half back in California, and it's never been easier for me to get studies. So on a national level, number one, there was no competition for me here. And I think a lot of other small business owners, if they're watching from outside of Yuma, they might consider, hey, okay, that sounds good, because it's definitely like a big enough market to have a successful standalone small business. And we have the opportunities here. It's just a matter of attracting small business and a few key bigger businesses. And I think that's kind of, I think both can be done at the same time. It's going to take a group effort to do it.
Right. And that's that collaboration I talked about. The thing I love about Yuma is we get together to get these things done.
Yeah. It's the ecosystem that you kind of have to put together. And that seems like a huge challenge to me, but
it is. And it's why I couldn't get things done in one term, right?
Yeah.
But it's definitely worth the effort. It's worth the effort for the Yuma community itself, but also for each individual person in Yuma. Having grown up here, there wasn't any university presence at the time. I was the first in my family to go off to university and to obtain a degree and those kind of things. It's not the only way to do it, but it's definitely aligned for certain people need that option. And so now that we've got some more opportunity and we're looking to expand that dramatically, that gives a different approach as you're growing up. If you're engaging with higher education, or at least opportunities, whether it's CTE or higher education, where you get to learn about yourself and what you can do at the adult level, right? On how to take care of yourself and your family. I think that's eye-opening for a lot of people. It's not just about a job. It's about choosing a profession.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's what I tell the coordinators all the time, too. Katie, any questions from Mr. Mayor?
I did. I was asking your assistant about one. I heard a little rumor about a Top Golf being built here. Do you know anything about that?
No way. Really?
Yeah.
I think that's I think that's a bad rumor.
A bad rumor?
Yeah. I've not heard anything except people wanting one here.
Okay.
If
Dr.
you look
Smith
at
wants one.
Yeah, I know he did.
We have Top Golf. It's just called the driving range.
Yeah, I know. I live right by one.
What's interesting about things like Top Golf and those is it takes a certain demographic of income, education level, and then density. So if you look at Tucson, for instance, there's one Top Golf. It's a community over 1 million people. And where it's located, it's kind of near some of the more affluent areas.
Mm-hmm.
Yuma's not quite there, I don't think, for that demographic. I would love it if we could bring that in here, as well as several other retail type establishments.
Yeah, just a little bit more entertainment, like activities
Sure.
and stuff,
It's
like
fun.
main event and stuff like that.
We're getting an axe throwing bar though, so that's
That
Really?
is
Yes,
we are.
awesome.
Dr. Smith wanted to do that. He wanted Top Golf on the top floor, axe throwing on the bottom,
Wow.
and like billiards. He wanted to do like a 3-story thing.
Wow.
This is his idea, but he's not serious about it.
Yep.
But do you think, like back to your point, do you think Yuma's headed in that direction to where the market's growing to eventually be able to support that kind of stuff?
I do believe that, and that's where the effort is pushing. That's where we're going, is to try to add to the income of the people of Yuma, add to that market. So not particularly so we get necessarily Top Golf, but just so it does opens those options for our community and for us individually as citizens. Right? It's having the opportunity to do those things is more important than what's here today. Because that's how we get the future we want of Yuma, is having the opportunity.
And then Anti-Drug Coalition. Do you want to talk a little bit about that and why that's so important for the community?
Sure, yes. So when I was growing up, we always had that DARE program, right?
Yeah.
And well, evidently it turned out that no longer exists. It didn't seem to statistically produce the results we all thought it would. And so in my discussions with the White House about 4 years ago, and I talked to their community drug prevention program coordinator, and they made me aware of some funding through Drug Free Communities grant system, where we were able to get $125,000 a year for 5 years to help build a strong community-wide program. So I got together with the Yuma County Drug Coalition and brought in more partners throughout the whole county: education, law enforcement, businesses, all sorts of different partners that provide a more holistic approach to it. And we put together the grant. We were awarded the grant, and now that's up and running. So you'll be seeing more and more drug prevention messaging out there, more resources out there to help, not just through our schools, but through all elements in our community.
Yeah, and I think that ties into what we do, because occasionally we do, our PI is a board certified pain and addiction specialist. So we get study offers for drug abuse, drug addiction type of studies. We haven't done one yet, but eventually we will, when it's the right study. So interesting to hear that as well.
It's important for a growing community. We all know fentanyl is out of control. It's really the pandemic that's really gripping our country, and we need to make sure that we're trying to push back on that. I mean, drugs forever and a day have been an issue for every community in this country. So just standing idly by and not trying to do something, I think is worse than trying something that maybe doesn't work. But we need to be moving together as a community, because you can't just do it with one at a time. It's got to be coordinated. It's got to be together.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions, Katie?
More so like how you're pushing that out. Like, I know you were talking about doing that like in the schools and stuff. How are you pushing that out like to the community, like advertising, I guess? So
we hired a coordinator, and that coordinator is responsible for making sure that message is varied and is out, at the fair and all those public events.
Okay.
I have, since they've hired a coordinator, and there is a very, very capable committee, it's one of the things I've done is stepped away so that they can run, and they're doing a great job. So we would really need to kind of connect up with them to see the details of all the planning.
Oh, okay.
But really hiring that coordinator is the key, because then you have someone full time who's not doing the regular job and then trying to fit this in. This is their job, and that's going to be, I think, the game changer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, thank you very much, Mayor Nicholls. I found you on Instagram. I looked you up when I first moved here to see, who's the mayor of this place. I found you. I was, again, very happy you're a business person. That's why you won my vote the second time around. Where do you want people to find you, the people watching?
Well, whatever venue makes what's comfortable for them. So I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter. I don't have a YouTube channel just because I don't produce that much content yet. We're going to get there, I think. They can reach out to me on the city website. My email does come straight to me. So there isn't a filter that goes through there first. You can call the office. Or if you see me at the store.
I found you on LinkedIn too.
Oh, I am on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I connected with you on LinkedIn.
Yep.
It's big in our industry, so good. I'm very glad to meet you. Thank you for agreeing to do this.
Well, I appreciate that.
Look forward to working with you guys together and seeing what we can do as far as clinical research opportunities in Yuma.
Sounds great. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.